to Get Freight to It. I'm your host, Chris Arredondo, co-founder and head or VP of pretty much everything customer related here at Cargo Chief. In our podcast and upcoming episodes, you'll hear not just from our partners and TMS companies, but also insight and kind of brief discussions from some of our customers here at the Chief, covering unique topics in the logistics industry, from slinging freight strategy, tips and tricks, new integrations coming from your favorite TMSs, you name it, we'll talk about it. So join us every week, kind of as we get freight to it. For those that haven't heard of Cargo Chief, we're a freight tech company that solves some of the biggest issues, not just when it comes to capacity, but that sporadic capacity, and not just when it comes to rating, but really the inaccuracies and volatility of the market, paired with the data fragmentation that we see in the industry. So how we do that is through a project and procurement software called C4. So if you're looking to book more freight, expand your carrier base, or just want a better way to price things out, we should probably talk after this. Today, we'll be getting into more kind of hearing about overcoming some challenges that a lot of companies and freight brokers face, whether it's in that early stage startup or maybe later 5 years into the business, or all the way up to when they've scaled and they're monsters now. Some big challenges kind of that one of our partners helped solve for, more from like a kind of like a voice perspective, with advocacy to data, then to networking, and then to education. So with me today to do just that, I've got Reinke, President and CEO over there at the Transportation Intermediaries Association, or TIA as we all know it for short. It's a pleasure having you, Ann. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Chris, thank you for having me on your show.
No problem. It's a blast. I love the cast. It's Get Freight to It, and we just kind of kick things off and getting into it, right? So to just that.
What do they say? Long time listener, first time caller. Thanks for
oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. I call every day at 6:20, but I can never get in. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not awake. I don't know. So just kind of thinking back, to today's topic, starting my career, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think that's true to like a lot of freight brokers today. The TMS that I knew, or that I was using, was Navisphere. I didn't really know what else was out there. And it wasn't really until the end of my stint there at C.H. Robinson until I even knew what a TMS stood for. Like, people would ask me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Let me pass you to Ricardo or something. So load boards at the same time didn't exist to me either. Carriers would ask about it, but I never really knew what a load board was, because our system was just, it did it all. It took care of the load posting, load coverage, taking loads down, and all that. So I started there when I was finishing up my last two college courses. So the whole 3PL magician behind the curtain was all new to me. Like, we talked about it in coursework, but it was just like it was just a quick 5-minute section in that marketing class for that day, and that was all it was talked about. And it was really interesting, learning the business and how big of an impact freight brokers make, and how necessary they are. And I think, from TMS to freight tech to other brokers, even outside of C.H. Robinson, in business models, when you think about cradle to grave or Chicago model, or account management support, whatever it is, everything was so new. And having a leg up and just knowing about some of those problems out there, like capacity or sporadic capacity in the volatile market, or anything in that nature of freight tech that others are facing, to know that there was an organization that helped flatten the curve, would have been a really big help for me, I think. Even my job selection, not just going with the first one and going to it. And today, as a partner or vendor working with you guys at the TIA, it definitely it goes beyond just, learning things. It's the networking and everything else that you guys do. So kind of when you and I were talking the other day, you walked me through kind of those pillars, I guess, top 4 pillars of the TIA, that made me feel like you all really thought about that process, from not just early members or people just starting out, but returning ones as well, and just the industry as a whole. So I guess kind of to that point, new members or partners or whatever in that spectrum, I guess, what are some of the problems that the TIA, really helped solve for?
Sure. So you're exactly right. We have a 4-legged stool, 4 pillars: education, advocacy, networking, and member services. And each kind of demographic within our membership, from the smallest of the small to the largest of the large, and everyone in between, may join TIA for different reasons. So you mentioned the small guys and gals. So look, the last 2 years has been freight out the yin yang, right? Everyone and their brother is shipping stuff. Everyone and their brother is buying stuff. So it could be easy to start out as a broker in that kind of environment, because you feel confident that you could get the kind of relationships that you need in order to be successful, because there's so much freight out there.
Yeah.
I would hasten to guess that that is a short-term strategy with not a long-term success. And why? Because being a success in brokerage requires a lot of things. Like you said, it's who are the actual right vendors for me to use. It's how do I get my capacity? How do I source my capacity? What is the best way? Who are the most reliable folks to use on the carrier side? How do I get shippers to be interested in me? The TIA name actually carries some weight with the shipping community. And how do I make sure that they come back? So it's not just getting them in the first place, it's how do you make them come back? How do you return that? And that takes a lot of education, and it takes a lot of know-how, and we provide that. We have the new broker success package, for example, as part of our educational offerings. And that gives you kind of like a little package of, all right, here's some vendors. Do you know what as you said, what is a TMS? A transportation management system, right?
Yeah.
Here's some options for you. Here's some, for example, model contracts to use if you've never written in your entire life and you're going to need to. We've got some frameworks there for you to look at. And so it's just sort of anticipating things that you're going to need that you don't know you need yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's I remember starting my career, moving on from CH, like there were lots of contracts, lots of bids. One of my biggest early customers was Nestle Waters, and they sent me these big bids, and they're like, sign these contracts, NDAs. I had no idea what any of that meant. And I think, I was blessed to kind of work for a larger company there at XPO. So it was like, they were able to give me the tools, but me as a user, if I'm like out doing it myself, I'm never going to know how to come back with that. Like what's the best practice here? Like, the problems you mentioned of like, how do I get capacity? How do I get shippers to look at me? And how do I separate myself from competition? Like those are things that are still today, right? Not just a new broker, but just like returning members or just brokers that have been doing the business for 5 years now. And it's like, if there are other tools out there, or not tools, but organizations that can help me that aren't just a broker, then that goes much further. Because here at as a freight tech company, we talk to hundreds of brokers a month. Like probably between our team, we probably talk to like 500 brokers a month. And like as a one seat carrier rep, you probably don't even know another 2 to 3 brokers off the top of your head, right? Where it's like an organization like you guys have that network connectivity to where like the advice that you're giving isn't just like your own. It's like a combination of all the experiences and challenges and successes that a lot of brokers have had, and you're able to kind of put that into like a deliverable solution, I guess. And I guess, to that point, what of the TIA, like of those 4 pillars, I guess, what would you see members coming back for more and more of? Is it that advocacy? Is it the education, networking, or what kind of things do you see them coming back for more of?
Yeah, I mean, again, it sort of depends on what your interests are, but we find that a couple things. One, networking, having all the people who are involved in an industry at the same place at the same time is enormously helpful. And people such as yourself find an ROI in just attending the meetings because they can get business out of it. And the people who aren't necessarily looking for customers, but for looking for advice, that's where all our educational sessions are really their most robust. We have a terrific course load throughout the year, but this is sort of the hypothesis of all of what you're looking for. And, and if you're a larger company, you're probably not looking for education necessarily. You may have your own education and training departments. However, you may not yet have, or may not have very much of, advocacy. And that's something that sort of, the company kind of risks that you seek protection and amplification for. That again is one of those things that we specialize in, because it's critical. We want to be the voice for the third-party logistics industries, and there are any number of challenges out there. And here's my pitch for lobbying. Nobody likes lobbyists and nobody likes Congress. However, you don't want to let congressmen decide to do things on their own without hearing from us, right? Without us actually explaining our industry. And I'll give you my little story. So I've known a member of Congress for years, a gentleman from Florida, and we had a dinner with him, and I told him a little bit about the industry, and he said, I got to tell you, I had no idea that there are industries like that out there. And and he's a smart guy. He's a savvy guy. But it's explaining the business to them.
Yeah, it's like C.H. Robinson, I could not name any other broker when I started out, right? That I had no idea what a broker was. Like, I thought it was 3PL. Okay, that's great. That's all I know. Come to find out, there's like 24,000 of them now or something, and growing. And it's like this market is so untapped that it's like information, it's data rich, but interpretation lacks. And I think like there's that, as well as awareness and branding and just things that we can do together that networking helps for. I think when a lot of salespeople think networking is just like networking for more customers or more shippers, more accounts and stuff, and it's not really that with the TIA, like, which is what I really enjoy. It's really just bonding kind of and moving the industry forward, like through the other pillars that you guys say, like through education and advocacy. Like, I have no business talking politics. I have like there's no way. I have no business coding either. But like, for the things that I enjoy is like having conversations like this and with our customers too, and just finding out the common challenges and problems. And that's like really what kind of moves things along, I would say. And I think like, my take on attending the shows that you guys have put on, it's really been a great event for us, great turnouts for us, and not just like education wise, but seeing new brokers that use our tool, and they're like, man, there's so much information here that I didn't even know existed. Like, and it's real. It's not a thing that we're just making up. Like, there's so much stuff out there. Like the market changes, and the one thing you can depend on in this industry or anywhere is change.
That's exactly right.
Having the TIA there to like be ahead, to produce this information, to like push knowledge through networking and advocacy is tremendous help. What is that kind of the experience that you've heard? I think you told me something about the first timers there at the TIA show. What's that experience like, and what do you see?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with a guy who said this was the first event he'd ever been to. And he said he was almost overwhelmed because there was so much that he learned. He realized how far behind he was. And so come Monday morning, he was going to email everybody he collected cards from. He was going to start implementing all the lessons he had learned. And to me, that is the beauty of like any organization worth their salt, is bringing the best of the best together. TIA, obviously, we are like the good housekeeping seal of brokerage, but it's bringing everyone who's affiliated with the industry together. Because you know what? If you have a problem, there's probably somebody out there who's had the exact same problem. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to make sure that there are solutions there for you if you just go out and seek them, and we're there to provide that. It was enormously rewarding to talk to people who had come and said, I didn't anticipate really doing anything, but I just made 3 sales, right? So that's on the vendor side. And then there's other people like who I just spoke of who just said, I learned so much. It's almost impossible to retain all that information. But what's nice about our industry, Chris, I think you know this, is that it's a very generous crowd. They're very generous with their knowledge. They're very generous with their expertise. Yeah. This is a very competitive industry, but they're not competitive necessarily at the expense of one another. They're sort of competitive with one another, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with our software, it's very like data heavy, and to get that, and to produce information out there, it requires that trust and reliability and honesty, all the good makeup of a person, right? All the good characteristics and character. And it's like that's what you get to experience too with this community. And I think like there's a lot of brokers, like you said, very competitive, yet the awareness of the TIA, like I they could benefit so much. It's like that again, back to the like, you don't know what you don't know. And it's like not just from the business leader level, but the guy booking freight, the girl booking freight or quoting freight, whatever it is. Like there's so much information that can be that you guys have that like is really rewarding. I think when you said you talked to that first time, we are like, it takes me back to like our first customer, or first 5 customers. It's like we build a product, but y'all build kind of like an experience, right? And it's like that's really, but I can't imagine the smile and the reward, right? That you felt when just hearing the from the horse's mouth, I guess is what they call it, right?
Right. And you said something at the beginning where it's sort of hard to understand our industry. And I think it's because we don't necessarily have a tangible outcome, right? We're not driving a truck. We're not making a train. But we do have that data. That's what what you're talking about. So what distinguishes brokers? We have relationships and we have technology, and our members are constantly innovating. And so we have the data that can really tap into what's happening in the marketplace. And I know that's something you trade in every single day, and something that I think for us, this is how we can really make a name for ourselves, even more so than we have, because everybody's trying to get data. Everybody thinks data is the coin of the realm. Even the White House has a supply chain initiative, right? Everybody's got data initiatives, and how you share it and all that stuff. Look, those are details that haven't yet been determined, but it certainly makes you realize this is something that's important. This is critical. We've got it. I mean, Chris, you tell me, what is it that's valuable in terms of data that you see that people really need, that really want, and that will help improve their businesses?
Turning the tables on us, huh? I got you. Asking me the questions, no problem. No. So it's like you're right. Like it's when you think education, I'd like to point this out. Like my wife is a teacher. And through my career, but my schooling and growing up and just hearing my wife teach and things, it's like you learn, like the best way to learn is to teach. And it's like the questions that y'all ask, like let's just say in education, like how can I get shippers to pay attention to me? Data can tell you that. Data is what's going to drive that response. And I think like for us as like data, like, yes, we have data, but it's really about how we interpret it. Is really the what data could be, how it can be more useful, right? So like we visit our customers and they'll say like, hey, can you add this property? Like we know when this load gets booked, we know when a carrier gets assigned. Can you just add that to our view so we can see that? But that's not really gonna like, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, it's like I want to know like why I paid so much. Okay, so is that what you want to know, or what's that going to tell you? Like if I told you paid this much because of this, what's your decision going to be? Well, I know to like quote low because that load is an outlier because of that reason. So I think it's like using data to educate and get to that common, like what's the underlying issue, the underlying problem. Like when I say capacity is not really the issue, it's the sporadic nature of capacity. Or like pricing's not really an issue, is it all the time? Like it's just the inaccuracy and the volatility of the market that's the issue. So how do we address that with data? And it's like the more information you have and the more you can learn and the better you can interpret, I think is what kind of moves the needle when it comes to anything that either the TIA is trying to put out, whether new content, new education sessions, or whatever it is. Like, and you can even think about marketing. Like, I know we do some co-marketing together, and the marketing brains between everybody in the organizations and vendors and partners and members and all this. Like, why start from ground zero? Why don't we market together and use our audience together and address common big issues that everybody faces at some point in time. So that's kind of how I would answer that question. I don't know. Did I answer that how you expected?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you may not realize this, but I thought that was a super smart way to respond, because what we're talking about here is not visibility for the sake of visibility, right? We're not actually saying you can see whatever you want, whenever you want. What we're saying is, let's have it be meaningful. Like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? All right, well, now that you tell me that, here's the data that can help you. And similarly, what is it, the issues that we hear from our customers, both from the motor carrier side and from the shipper side? What can we do to make it easier? So is it having, for example, one of our members has technology housed internally where their technology can speak to shippers and to the carriers who have totally different technologies, but they can speak through their online technology. So that's solving a problem there, that there's this communication gap that existed prior, and now they've resolved that. So to me, I think that's so smart, that you want to be really strategic in how you provide the data, that it's not just, here's everything, this is all we're doing, because that doesn't really help you either. What you want to do is solve a problem.
Yeah, it's communication is the number one reason why companies fail or succeed. And then it's like data interpretation also kind of carries behind that, I guess. So it's it's everything.
Yeah.
It's like the talent gap. Like, I mean, today hiring people is tough to do with the right talent, booking freight. And it's like, well, the more meaningful information you can have, whether it's with the TIA, serving up the right content, right, with intent, and like that's really critical for the next person who comes along and sees that, right? There's not really another organization that kind of leads the headway like you guys do. So even in product too, it's like don't give them just a capacity or carrier mention just for them to call. Like, it's got to have intent with everything that you're showing.
What are you going to do with that contact? How's the best way to leverage that relationship? And that's really what we teach. And, one of the things that we're looking forward to is our technology committee that we just refurbished after, COVID delayed a lot of things. And so after we had our 2-year COVID delay, we've put together our technology committee again, and they put together a fabulous agenda for Technovations in October 26th through 28th in Phoenix, Arizona, which is probably, I think it's like 125 degrees there right now. Probably by the time it's October, it'll be a little cooler. But the whole point of that is the emphasis is not just, it's really, really tightly focused on innovation and technology. And so what exactly are the next things that we're anticipating for the future?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that show, great one. We had 2 months away now is the next one. You guys also have one in September, or?
Yes, the advocacy that we spoke of. Again, I know no one likes Washington and no one likes lobbyists, but it's like a necessary evil. But because how in the world can we share our message if we're not up there on Capitol Hill? And I'll tell you, people who don't necessarily share the good feelings about brokers are up there. So we've got to be up there and advocating for ourselves. And so that's September 19th through the 21st. We'll have meetings on Capitol Hill. You can meet your member of Congress. You can give them a piece of your mind. Hopefully it's about brokerage as opposed to other issues. It just gives you an opportunity to talk about what your experience is, because a lot of these guys and gals may not have any business experience whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Great one to check out and share your voice with the TIA so they can get the right things out there. That's for sure. Because if they don't know what's out, then how are they supposed to act on it and make decisions? And again, the TIA's 3PL's Technovations conference 2 months away. I'm guessing they can go to tianet.org and register, or how should they find out more information? How can they find out more information about the TIA or these conferences? Where can they go?
Chris, you're exactly right. tianet.org. We're also on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm not sure if our members want to be on Twitter or not. Twitter's going through a lot of peaks and valleys, but LinkedIn seems to be a good constant. People like LinkedIn, so we're on there too.
I can't wait for the TIA's TikTok to come out. That'll be a good one.
Yeah,
so-
I know. We have somebody who's telling us we should do TikTok. I don't know if you know Trey Griggs, but he's like, you guys have got to get into TikTok.
I think I know Trey. BCB Transport Live is another like show that goes on every morning, and I think they were telling us they're just getting into TikTok. I'm curious to see how that plays out in this industry. It took us 10 years in the pandemic to get any kind of digital freight matching going. So who knows?
There you go.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening today. And I appreciate you joining us, and thanks again for joining us here on Get Freight Toot. And if you're looking to kind of network more within the industry, or tune up your education, I guess, and become a CDB, the TIA has a certified transportation broker course. Again, you can go to their website, check out that coursework, and see what it takes to get that going. And tune in with us every week, either on LinkedIn, Spotify. And while you're on our website, cargochief.com, check out some of our case studies and customer results. We just did a one here recently with one of our digital freight matching customers, and you kind of see how they reduce their cost of booking freight by 90%. And check that out with our project and procurement software called C4. For everyone else, have a great week, and see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.